Yo! Yes, everybody, we are back with some more anime-related content for you lovely people. So as a lot of y'all know, I am not just a Jujutsu Kaisen merchant, even though it may seem that that is the complete opposite. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, after September 30th, I will be back on the fryers at McDonald's. I'm kidding, I've never worked at McDonald's. So about a month or two ago, I was going through some shows that I'd heard were recommended to me. One of those was Ranger Reject. Y'all know how that video ended up. God. And another was a little anime called Heavenly Delusion. I had heard some rumblings about it from last year, but during the time this was airing, Vinland Saga was also airing, and so I was more consumed with that at that current time. And also Jujutsu Kaisen was coming up, so obviously, you know, hype was everywhere. But I had heard this was a fantastic show, so I decided to give it a watch. I'm gonna try to keep this as spoiler-free as I possibly can, but there is one specific episode that I will dive fairly deep into. Yeah, this nigga lied. There are spoilers all throughout this video, so stay safe. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a special announcement. I have a very special announcement. Did you see this? I have merch. Yes, I have merch. I have merch. You need to buy it. You need to buy it now. You need to buy it now. Go to the link in the description down below. Okay, go to the link down in the description below. Hit the merch. Okay, I have a limited time code. Don't tell anybody. It's first drop. You heard me. First drop. FIRSTDROP for a limited percentage off of your next purchase. Okay, please give me your money. Give me your money. It's very important. Okay, my editors are fucking expensive, and I can't keep containing them in the basement anymore, man. It's dangerous stuff out here. And also, for some reason, if you don't want any of the merch that I have on my site, go to animeexpress.com. Use my code DAFFY10, that is DAFFY10 for 10% off for your next purchase. Okay, bye. But first things first, man, this show is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. The direction of the show is fantastic. I love the use of environments. There's not a whole lot of CG in this show ever, from what I can remember. Even the monsters, with how intricate their designs are. Which to say that CG isn't bad all the time. I certainly don't think so. But in this show, I will say that the direction is top notch. The action, whenever it is shown, is very fluid, very easy to follow. It's not a whole bunch of shaky cameras or anything like that. Every action that the characters make is clear, it's crisp, and I absolutely adore it. It's funny because there's one specific instance of one of the main characters, Kiruko, who runs up to a monster and she points her gun at it and fires, and it's similar to how they did Mirio's PowerPoint presentation, quote unquote, but this, it felt a lot cleaner, it felt a lot crisper. This definitely felt like a stylistic choice rather than a budgetary restraint. I mean, you could just tell from the intro and the last, 10 to 15 seconds of the intro that this show clearly had a lot of budget and a lot of passion made into it. If my kindly editor could put on the director of this, I gotta give him a high five whenever I see him. They did a phenomenal job of this. And moving past the visuals of the show, what really stuck out was the dynamic between the two leads. You have Maru as well as Kiruko. Now, I want this to be very clear. This show is not a shonen or anything like that. Is this a seinen? I believe it would be, but for me, this feels just like a mystery thriller with monsters thrown in. The monsters aren't really the central focus, honestly. It's the world around everything. Well, I say that, but the monsters are an integral part of the story, but I'll talk about that. You have Maru, who is a young man with a strange ability where he can reach inside of these monsters and he can kill them almost instantly. And then you have Kiruko, who is basically his escort and trying to escort him across the country to where heaven is, quote unquote, or basically this facility where Maru is intended to be dropped off. And their dynamic is fun. Admittedly, some of the humor between them is not really all that for me a couple of times, but for the most part, I would say the comedy between them is fairly good. Maru has a crush on Kiruko, which he's a growing young man. It's gonna happen. And Kiruko only sees him as a friend. Now, it is actually for a completely different reason than you think. I'm gonna get into deep spoilers here for a second, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers concerning Heavenly Delusion, please click off the video, but make sure you leave a like, I appreciate it. So when we come to learn Kiruko's past, we learn it is actually insanely tragic. We learned that Kiruko, whose real name is Kiriko, actually had a brother named Haruki. During a freak accident with a monster, Haruki ended up being almost completely devoured by a monster, and there was a gunshot that goes off, and all of a sudden Haruki wakes up in his sister's body, Kiriko. This is absolutely tragic, and this plays into one of the more heavy mystery aspects of the show, because the show is definitely I describe the show as a thriller for a reason. There are so many unanswered questions all throughout this thing, up and down. And a lot of these, from what they answer in the first season, are not great endings, and they're not, and when I say not great endings, I don't mean that the quality is not great. I mean that they're pretty sad, pretty demented. The shock of having Haruki inside of his own sister's body and not knowing if he's his sister, if he's him, or what they're called now, which I've called Kiruko. It's traumatic. And he did have sort of a sister complex. Dude, I am so sick and tired of this. I don't know what they got going over there in Japan. Listen, I know like the male birth rate is through the roof, but y'all cannot be this desperate. There is no xenophobia in my voice. Y'all ain't gonna cancel me, but y'all gotta admit, man, Japan, what y'all got going on, man?
You's a freaky ass nigga!
How is Japan as a nation so fucking freaky, but then y'all censor hentai? Like, what? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Moving on. We get a hint that there's possibly something else going on, because in one of the first episodes we see Kiriko staring at her own body and going to kiss her reflection. Now, obviously, this makes you think this is going to be more of a masturbatory purpose, but that's not what this is. It is, but it's also something a little deeper. It's also him kind of exploring his own sexuality and kind of coming to grips with what he really is. Now, again, this is his sister's body, so that's so very weird, you know what I mean? I'm not co-signing any of this. Y'all like getting me. Like, that nigga Haruki is a fucking freak. But then when you look at this and you have a certain event in, I believe, episode 12 or 11, I won't get into it here because it's just very graphic. It really drives home this fact that there's definitely a schism within the mind of Kiriko, and that they are trying to establish themselves as a new person, not just as Haruki or Kiriko. But the personalities of these characters never get annoying to me. While yes, they are younger, Maru is still an exceptionally capable young man. He's dumb, he's a little goofy sometimes, but when it counts, he's actually extremely dependable, and Kiruko is extremely street smart and crafty. I love how many times that they make use of the limited batteries that they have with Kiruko's gun. This thing is busted, it's OP, but because they have to charge it, they get into situations where, we have to like pump fake, we gotta make sure we're like flexing it, but we actually don't have any bullets in there. Or like, we gotta find a battery or something like that. Like, I like how it's never just like, no, nothing's a threat because we have this gun, you know what I mean? And going forward into the world as well, just the cast of characters that we have is so interesting to see, because for instance, we have this one character who is a young woman, and her dream is to run this hotel that they're staying at, and she wants to sleep with every customer that she has and like enjoy running the hotel, which it's sad because we're like, dude, like in our minds, right, we're thinking like, dude, that is not a way to live. That is horrible. You can get taken advantage of, anything could happen to you, you get diseases, but these aren't things that people are thinking about in the future, right? Or a post-apocalyptic world, you gotta think about like surviving, you gotta think about eating, you gotta think about getting electricity type shit. You gotta worry about cannibals, you gotta worry about tribes of women that'll have men bred as pigs, you know? And I feel like there's a whole bunch of shit you gotta worry about. So I don't know, man, getting a little bump on your lip, I guess, isn't really the top of some people's food chain, but hey, I do you, I guess. Stay blessed. But moving on for this, we actually have two separate timelines that are going on. It's actually confusing initially whether that this flashback is taking place in the future or in the past. After some time passes, we get to know that our protagonist in the flashback, Tokyo, is very integral directly with Maru and Kiruko. Tokyo is in this facility with all these gifted children who you ordinarily think is, it's just, these protected kids from the outside world, and they don't know any better. They're just, ignorant to everything. They just grew up in this apocalyptic world. They have no idea what's going on. But then you realize these kids actually are like legit gifted. They actually have powers and things like that. In the beginning, which is very small, but it did stick out to me, is you have these two young girls and they're shown kissing, and then you have the officials looking over at this with concern. Now, the vibe isn't that they're homophobic or anything like that, but the vibe is that they shouldn't be doing this. Why are they doing this? And as we get deeper and deeper into the story, some of these layers start to unravel. I dig it, man, I do. I think one of the most horrifying things was when one child specifically talked about the babies with no faces. That was horrifying. That was terrifying. I don't know why, just that specific line just sent chills down my spine. And so with more and more time, we get to understand that these kids, they were never taught about sexual education. They actually should be asexual, or so we think. And then we have this mother robot, I don't know what this thing is. We have no idea what this is. At the end of season 1, I am not a manga reader for myself, so please, if you're a manga reader, please don't spoil it for me, because I'm really hoping season 2 comes out in like the next 3 years. But we have this robot in charge of the facility where all these scientists are taking their lead from, and they are actually advocating for these children to breed with each other. For example, you have this robot sending illicit pictures of this one girl to this other boy to see what they will do. The purpose, I don't know why. Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Now, the show is fairly episodic in its format. They are obviously moving across the country, so they're going to run into a slew of different characters that they come across. But the episode that actually got me emotional, I posted on my community page, it stuck with me. And I remember almost every single moment of it. It's hard because once you watch a lot of anime and stuff like that, a lot of it can get kind of blurry, but you'll have certain episodes that they stick with you, right? And they sting. So with this particular episode, Maru and Kiruko come across these people who seem to be revolutionaries, and these people are trying to get into this hospital. They said they're doing experiments on people. They're torturing them in there, and like it's crazy. It's disgusting what they're doing, right? You have this one woman who, she said that she had a limb chopped off. I believe it was her leg. And she said she saw some horrible chopped up monstrosity in this facility, and that they're just torturing her. And so we as the viewers, we're thinking, okay, well, they got some bad shit going on in here. They said there's this one doctor who's in charge of it all. So I'm like, bro, this needs to be stopped. So Maru and Kiruko end up breaking into the facility. They end up in the basement where they had kind of some monsters. They managed to evade the monsters, and then they actually encounter the doctor who they have heard about. They heard that this is basically the Frankenstein, right? Dr. Frankenstein. And the first thing he asked them, can you kill something for me? Now, immediately we're kind of offset because we're like, what? Like, we heard you were bad news bears. Why are you asking us for a favor? And so the doctor actually leads them to the room of a patient that he is overseeing. And as he's taking them over there, all these people in this hospital, they actually showed that they are very affectionate and caring towards the doctor. And we see that actually all these people in here are amputees, and the doctor's actually using prosthetics to keep them in shape. You'll have, I believe it was a little boy who really couldn't control how much strength he was putting into the grip of his new arm, and all these different things. The doctor actually we see is helping people. So that we're kind of like, okay, well, what does he need us to do? Who does he need us to kill? What's going on? And so we go into this room and we see that this is actually a woman who has been almost all of her limbs have been amputated. And we understand that actually there is a sickness that happens with the people of this world, and that if they are fully infected, they will transform into a monster. And the only way to halt the sickness's progression is to amputate. And we came to understand this is actually this doctor's significant other. Man, this hurt. This hurt me a lot, honestly. The use of music in this scene, the visuals of them taking this woman outside to see the sun. You have this funny little gag where, she even calls the guy an idiot because she tugs on her wires too hard and it hurts her. And we actually can see some of her personality show up, because all too often in media, when you see people that are on death's door and things like that, they don't have a personality. They're just mute. But actually seeing them get a little spicy, it's a wonderful change of pace. And we come to understand that actually it was this woman who enjoyed it whenever the doctor would fix these people. It just started with one guy. He just happened to wander across them, and so the doctor fixed him, sent on his way. And then actually this woman pushed for him to keep doing it more and more and more because it made her happy. So she was the only reason that all these people were getting help, if you think about it. So eventually Maru ends up going into her heart, delivering a mercy kill, and the doctor is left with her body. Already this was just very, very sad. But then we have the doctor giving Maru and Kiruko directions that where they need to go, and as he's going along with them, he says he needs to take a break for a second, or whatever he says, I don't remember exactly. And he goes up, he reflects on his life with this woman. He actually ends up taking his own life because he cannot live without her. And I kind of knew it was coming, but it didn't make it any less painful. I think this is a masterfully crafted episode of anime. Not just anime, but just fiction, period. Thug tears were definitely shed, man. I showed my girlfriend this episode, and even she was just like, oh my god, I had no idea who these people are, but this show is most definitely worth your time. If you are interested in good art direction, a good story, mysteries and all that good stuff, oh yeah, man, this is definitely up your alley. Also, a quick question, what the fuck was up with that, like, one alien-looking child in the facility? Bro, what the hell? And they, like, killed themselves? I was still a little bit confused on that. I was like, why do you look like that? I don't know if this is like a My Hero Academia quirk. We have that one nigga that looks like a spray bottle. I was perplexed. But yes, Heavenly Delusion is most definitely worth your time. Definitely go check the series out. It is on Hulu. Unfortunately, it's in Disney jail, and a lot of people have Hulu. It's just Hulu's kind of just mid, to be honest. They got the bear though. That's cool. But yeah, it's me, boy Daffy, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this video. Please make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Y'all make sure to take care of yourselves, guys, and have a good one. Peace.